mystery plagues, ghost ships, and people vanishing without a trace. These are just a few of the mind-blowing tales we're uncovering in today's episode of the Infographics Show, the most insane unsolved mysteries. The ghost ship of the Mary Celeste. On December 5th, the vast Atlantic stretched endlessly before the British ship Dei Grazia. Then, something caught the crew's eye, a ghostly vessel drifting aimlessly for 100 nautical miles east of the Azores. That ship was the Mary Celeste. It had set sail from New York on November 7th, destined for Genoa, Italy, carrying Captain Benjamin Spooner Briggs, his wife, their young daughter, and 7 experienced crew members. Yet, something inexplicable happened. None of them would ever be seen again. The captain of Dei Grazia, David Morehouse, ordered a boarding party to investigate the drifting vessel. What they found would baffle the world. The Mary Celeste showed no signs of a struggle, no chaos, no damage, nothing to explain the emptiness that greeted them. The ship was eerily intact, but instead of its crew and passengers, it carried only silence and mystery. The last entry on the ship's log was at 5 a.m. on November 25th, meaning the Mary Celeste had been floating aimlessly for almost 10 days by the time it was discovered. It still had 6 months of supplies in good condition. The sailors found that the ship's lifeboat was missing and wondered if the Mary Celeste was defective in some way, which would have caused the crew to abandon ship. A quick search revealed that the ship had taken on 3.5 feet of water at its very bottom, and one of its 2 pumps was disassembled. Despite this, the Mary Celeste was just as seaworthy as ever. In fact, the ship's abandonment was so perplexing that suspicion fell on the wrong people. When the Dei Grazia's crew sailed the Mary Celeste to Gibraltar to claim payment for salvaging the ship, the Attorney General started an investigation against them. It was believed they might have played a sinister role in the disappearance of the Mary Celeste crew. So what happened? One theory suggests that the Mary Celeste faced relentless storms, with towering waves and howling winds battering the ship. To make matters worse, Captain Briggs was relying on a faulty chronometer, leading him to misjudge their location in the Atlantic. Believing the vessel had taken on too much water during the storms, Briggs tried to assess the damage. But the ship's pumps critical for determining water levels were useless, clogged with coal dust and debris from a previous voyage. No seasoned captain would ever abandon a seaworthy ship in open water. But Captain Briggs may have thought the Mary Celeste was on the brink of sinking, and salvation was only a few miles away. So, Briggs may have ordered the crew into the lifeboat, aiming to reach the safety of the land ahead of them. But instead of finding a bustling harbor, they may have encountered yet another brutal storm or a deserted island with no hope of survival. But this ghost ship is far from the strangest thing anyone has ever found in the sea. The Antikythera mechanism. That prize may go to the Antikythera mechanism. Discovered by sponge divers near Antikythera Island in 1901, the mechanism is thought to be the creation of ancient Greeks. But why is it so shocking that a civilization renowned for advancing geometry, mathematics, and astronomy could create such technology? Because the Antikythera mechanism is far ahead of its time a device, so advanced that it's essentially the world's first known analog computer, built around 100 BC. The technology that could make such a mechanism possible wouldn't be developed for millennia. In fact, the closest relatives of this type of mechanism are medieval cathedral clocks, built at least 1,000 years after the Antikythera mechanism. Made out of bronze sheet, the machine has the first ever known set of scientific dials. It also had at least 30 gear wheels, although they're mostly fragments now. There's also a large dial for the sun and moon in the zodiac, a ball for lunar phases, and 2 large dials tracking other astronomical cycles. The machine used very sophisticated technology, including both a slot and pin mechanism to account for subtle changes in the moon's motion, and epicyclic gearing, the same tech used in car transmissions. Due to the inscriptions, archaeologists confirmed it was Greek in origin, and one of the dials in the back was tuned to a 4-year cycle and kept track of the different Pan-Hellenic games. Some historians suspect the inventor behind the Antikythera machine is Archimedes, the ancient Greek Neil deGrasse Tyson. One of the premier scientists at the time, Archimedes was ahead of most of his colleagues by, well, a century, if he truly is the inventor of the mechanism. The machine is mysterious not only because of the technology required to build it, but also because of the knowledge of astronomy and the universe it would have needed. Scientists believe the Antikythera mechanism predicted astronomical events like solar eclipses, something thought to be beyond the knowledge of even the most advanced ancient Greeks. The other puzzling part of this machine is, why is it the only one? If ancient Greeks had much more advanced tech than historians previously believed, why is this the only machine in which it's been found? We will never really know for sure. As it turns out, we don't even know a lot about today's big tech, but more on that later. The Flannan Isles lighthouse disappearances. In 1899, 4 lighthouse keepers were given a thankless job to man the lighthouse on Eilean Moor and hopefully stop ships from smashing on the rocky Outer Hebrides of western Scotland. Only 3 men would be present at the lighthouse at any given time, with a 4th taking 2 weeks to go home and remember what his family looked like before leaving civilization again. On December 26, a ship captain reported no sign of life from the lighthouse. There was no response to the horn being sounded or a rocket fired from the ship. Relief keeper Joseph Moore was sent to investigate. When he got on shore, he was stunned to discover that all 3 keepers, James Duckett, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur, had disappeared. 2 of the 3 oilskin coats that normally hung in the entranceway were missing. There was half-eaten food on the table, and a chair had been overturned. The last entry in the logbook was on December 13th, with the last weather readings written down at 9 a.m. on December 15th. Since they were never transferred to the log, Moore believed the men must have disappeared during the afternoon of the 15th. The men couldn't have run away, as there was literally no way to leave the island until the supply ship came by. Foul play was briefly suspected, but also dismissed. The lighthouse sits on a 200-foot cliff, high above the ocean below. That should have offered it some protection, but the island was often hit by intense winds and giant waves. In fact, just a month after the lighthouse was first lit, waves actually reached all the way up to its height. These massive, powerful waves are called large rollers, and one of them could have slammed into the tiny island with unstoppable force. When Moore returned, he found that a box containing crane handles, mooring and landing ropes stored 110 feet above sea level had been completely washed away during his absence. It seemed like more proof pointing to the rogue wave theory.